Hi everyone, welcome to Tim Burbage Reads. My name's Tim Burbage, and I'm going to today I'm going to be talking to you about the r/fantasy bingo for 2024. So I'm a bit of a noob at all this, but I've just found this, and it's on the fantasy subreddit of Reddit, and they have a bingo that they do every year, and I'm going to try and put the card up here if I can. If not, it's just going to be a blank screen, and you're just going to have me talking through it. But it runs from April the 1st, 2024 to March the 31st, 2025. So there's different categories. It's a 5x5 grid, and there's each category of book, and then there's a hard mode, which is like an extra level that you have to reach for each one. You can either go what's called a blackout, which is when you get all of them, or you can go for bingo, which is doing a row, or you could do whatever you like. This is about reading more books. It's about stretching yourself, reading outside of things that you would normally pick to read, and about sharing and discussing them with people. So this is for a year, and I'm kind of looking at what books I've got that I'm planning to read, moving stuff up the reading list to try and fit these categories. But I've got some gaps, so I'll be looking for recommendations in here, and I'll talk about each category. One thing is that you can only have, you can't have the same author appear in multiple squares. You can't have the same book appear in multiple squares, which is interesting because I'm doing a year of Jack London, so I can only have a Jack London story in one book, in one square, and it's r/fantasy, but I don't think they have to be fantasy. For me, I'm just going for books that fit, because I don't just read fantasy or science fiction. I read lots of different things. So, anything else? Any other rules? I'm not going for hard mode specifically, but if it ticks hard mode, then that's great. I'm trying to do as much as I can. I think currently what I've got planned, I've got one row done, but I've still got a few gaps that I need to fill in to get the full blackout. So, let's start at the top. First in a series. So this is the first book in a series. The hard mode is the series has to be more than 3 books, so 4 or more books. I'm going to go with the book that I've started, and it's Magician by Raymond E. Feist. I would say this hits hard mode because it's part of the Rift War cycle, which is certainly more than 3 books. It's like 30 books or something insane. So, next, moving our way along, is an alliterative title. The hard mode for here is the alliteration has to be over 3 or more words. So for this, I'm going to read Miles Morales, volume, whatever it is that I've got. I'm reading it with my son at the moment. So Miles Morales, alliterative. Number 3, moving along, is Under the Surface. This is where the book has parts of the book take place under the ground or underwater, and the hard mode is it's over 50%. This one, I don't know. I'm looking for suggestions. I would like to read something under the sea, because I'm planning a D&D campaign that will be nautical themed with pirate ships and all that kind of stuff. So that would be fun to kind of help get some ideas on what we could do there. Next one along is Criminals. So this can be assassins, thieves, rogues generally. And the hard mode is that the book needs to contain a heist. So I've just read The Winter Soldier Cold Front by Mackenzie Lee, which is about the Winter Soldier from Marvel, who is an assassin. So that counts as a criminal. Tick. And the last one along is Dreams. The book has to have dreams in it. And I think the hard mode is that the dreams can't be magic or prophetic. They're just dreams. This is a category where I think you just find out after you've read the book. So this is an open one for me. Looking for suggestions, but it might be one. I might read a book and it has dreams in it, so I'll just put it in. Who knows? Next row. Entitles animals. So this is where there is an animal in the title. And the hard mode is the animal isn't real, so it's a fictional, fantastical animal, like a dragon or a unicorn. So for this, I'm going to read the graphic novel of Captain America and the Falcon, because I really like Captain America and Falcon, and I've got it on my comics app, which I think is going to be deleted soon, but it's on my Kindle as well, so I'll read it on there. Next is bards. So this is about storytellers, songwriters, authors, things like that. And the hard mode is the person actually has to be mentioned as a bard. For this, I'm going to do Scar Tissue by Anthony Kiedis, which my wife has had for a very long time, and I've always meant to read it, and I haven't got around to it. So I would think this counts as hard mode. It's non-fiction, but he is a bard. He is a songwriter, and a singer. Next one along is prologues and epilogues. The book has to have a prologue or an epilogue in it. Hard mode is that it has to have both. For this, I'm going to do Abroad in Japan, which is a book I've just got from the library, and I looked at it, and that has a prologue and an epilogue in it. So great. Next is self-published or indie. There's a thing of like, if it gets picked up by a publisher, you would have had to read it before it gets picked up by a publisher. Hard mode is less than 100 reviews on Goodreads, or the indie publisher has done an Ask Me Anything on the fantasy subreddit. I don't really look at the fantasy subreddit, so I wouldn't know. But I'm going to go with Truth Beyond the Sky, which is a ebook that I've got on my Kindle, and I got it in like a whole bunch, and yeah, looks interesting. The final item on the row is Romantasy. This is where romance is the main part of the story, and hard mode is it has to be LGBTQIA+. And for me, I don't have anything in this box. The only Romantasy that I've read was Fourth Wing, and I thought it was really, really bad. I would say it wasn't the romance that made it bad for me. It was the characters and the world and the plot and the prose. So I'm not like, oh, I don't like Romantasy, but I'm looking for recommendations because Fourth Wing was the biggest one, and I really didn't enjoy it. Third row is first one is Dark Academia. I didn't really know what this meant. I heard it thrown around a lot. But it means like in schools, and a hard mode is that the school has to be non-magical. And I was like, I don't know any of this. But I did, I typed in Dark Academia on Wikipedia while reading some media, going on Expedia, and having some hysteria. And one of the examples was The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, which has been on my Kindle forever, so it's given me a good excuse to read it. The next one along is Multiple POV. I think the hard mode, it has to be more than 3, or maybe more than 5 or more POVs. Again, I don't know. I don't have one for that. But we'll see. I think that will be one that you can fit a few books into, so we'll see on that. Next is published in 2024. Hard mode is it has to be a debut writer, debut author. Mine isn't hard mode, but it's The Storm and the Seahawk by Kieran Millward Hargrave. This is the second book in the Geomancer trilogy. The first one was In the Shadow of the Wolf Queen, and it was my book of the year last year. It was my favourite book. So I can't wait for the sequel to come out. She's just revealed the cover. It looks awesome. Yeah. The next one along is a character with a disability. And the hard mode was it has to be the main character. And originally I had nothing for this. And then I just did my May TBR, my May mystery book, and I got The Story of My Life by Helen Keller. Fits it perfectly. So that will go in there. Next, the final one on the third row is published in the 1990s, and hard mode is that the author has to also have published within the past 5 years. I don't know if this one counts for hard mode, I don't think it does. But one book that I really want to read, I think it's part of my mystery collection, but I really want to read it, is Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. We're going to Japan in the summer, and I'd really like to read it to learn more about Japan. I do know it's fiction, but I'd like to read more of it. Fourth row is Orcs, Trolls, and Goblins, oh my. Needs to contain Orcs, Trolls, or Goblins. And the hard mode is one of these creatures has to be the main character. So for that, I'm going to go with The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan, the second book in the Wheel of Time series. I've read the first one early this year, and I thought it was okay. But I've been liking the TV show, and everyone says it gets better from the second one. So, and it has Trollocs, which is a mix of trolls and orcs. So, I count that. Next one along is space opera, which I find quite hard. I think of space opera, I think of Star Wars, and I don't really know of many other ones. So, and the hard mode is it has to be written by someone of a non-male gender. So women, trans, non-binary, things like that. I don't have a recommendation. I don't have a spot for this at the moment. So I'm really interested to see if you guys have got any recommendations. Because I just think of Star Wars. So I could find a Star Wars book from the library, because there's loads of them. And that could go in there. But interesting what else there is. Next is an author of colour. The hard mode on here, I think it has to be a debut, but I can't remember what the hard mode is for that one. Let me just do a quick check. Yeah, debut in the last 5 years. That's what hard mode is. So this is a book that I've had for a while and been looking to read and keep putting it off just because I'm prioritising other things. And that is Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. I really like the TV show, so I'm looking forward to reading that. Next one along is Survival, which is a story, has to be a story about someone just trying to survive. And the hard mode is it can't be about a plague or pandemic. So I'm going to go for Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham, because I think plants invade London and the main character is just trying to survive, I think. Fourth one, the final, fifth one along on the fourth row is Judge a Book by its cover. So just go and get a book because you like the cover of it. Hard mode is don't even read the back. That one will be interesting to do. I don't have one at the moment. Maybe I'll go to a bookshop and just pick one that I like the cover of. It's really hard not to read the back though. So we'll see. Final row, final stretch. First one is Set in a Small Town. And I think the hard mode here is the small town has to be in a real world. It doesn't necessarily have to be a real town, but it needs to be in our world, not in a fantasy world. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold. The next one along is you need to read 5 short stories, and hard mode is I think you need to read a whole collection. So I had a whole load. I had 20 short stories by Jack London, and I read that in April, so that's a tick. Third one along is Eldritch Creatures, so that means they need to be kind of unknowable from another plane of existence. And hard mode is they can't be from the Cthulhu mythos. I have no idea about this at all, so I'm looking for suggestions. Number 4 along the row, the penultimate one, is a book that has reference materials. I thought, what does this even mean? But it means it has maps or language guides or a list of characters or family trees or anything like that. And hard mode is it needs to have 2 of those. So in April, I finished The Silmarillion. And that has lots of these. It has maps, it has language guides, it has family trees, it has a list of characters, it has an index, it has everything. So that definitely ticks hard mode. And then the last box is something in their book club. And their read along. So they had a big Excel spreadsheet of everything that's been in their book club. And I looked through and they had Titus Grown by Mervyn Peake, the first book in the Gormenghast trilogy, which is something that I was interested in reading. So I've put that one in because the others, there were some others there that were quite interesting, but that's one that I was like, oh, I'm definitely interested in that. So there we go. There's 25 different topics. So far, in April, I've already ticked off 3, so that's good. 2 of them in hard mode. And in terms of ones I've got planned, I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 planned. So 3 read, 14 planned. So I've got 17. So I should have 8 left to pick. Yeah, I've got 8 to look for recommendations for. So please put in the comments below what you think I should pick. And there we go. Hopefully I'll have the thing up there the whole time. We'll see how that goes. And I'll see you soon. And get out of my house!